Some opportunities are too good to be true for a reason. The scorching summer of 2018 hung over Pinecrest like a suffocating blanket. While my friends celebrated their 17th birthdays with new summer jobs and driver's licenses, I remained trapped in that awkward limbo of being 14, too young for legitimate employment, yet desperate for ashe. Independence and pocket money. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how I almost disappeared. The rejection letters piled up as business after business turned me away with apologetic smiles. "Come back when you're 16, they'd say, not realizing how those words stung. Desperation drove me to places I shouldn't have gone specifically, to the shadowy corners of local listings, where regulations seemed more like suggestions than rules. That's where I found it. Housekeeper needed for Oak Ridge property. $15/hour cash. Flexible schedule. The listing included 2 photographs at charming colonial-style home with neatly trimmed hedges and an interior shot of a tastefully decorated living room. Nothing extraordinary, just a comfortable middle-class residence in Westlake, the neighboring town. The only contact method was an email address. I crafted a careful message, honestly disclosing my age but emphasizing my willingness to work hard. The response came with unsettling speed barely 20 minutes later. "Perfect timing," wrote someone identifying himself as Victor. "I need someone Tuesdays through Fridays 9-3. When can you start?" I replied immediately, excitement overriding caution. Then came the question I hadn't considered. "Do you have transportation to Westlake?" My heart sank. Mom worked double shifts at the hospital, and Dad's construction job took him 2 towns over. Before I could formulate a response, another message arrived. "I can provide transportation. My office is near Pinecrest, so I could easily pick you up and drop you off daily." The offer seemed generous to you. Generous. But at 14, generosity rarely triggers suspicion. I accepted without consulting my parents, a decision that still haunts me. Victor requested my address, promising to collect me at 9 a.m. the following Tuesday. I provided the information without hesitation. Tuesday arrived with clear skies and nervous anticipation. At precisely 9 a.m., a midnight blue 2012 Honda Accord pulled into our driveway. The man who emerged wore a Navy Yankees cap that shadowed his face and sported a neatly trimmed auburn beard. His casual attire jeans and a polo shirt didn't suggest someone headed to an office, but I dismissed this inconsistency. "I'm Victor," he said, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Ready for your first day?" The 20-minute drive to Westlake passed with superficial conversation. Upon arrival, Victor handed me a key, gave cursory instructions about tidying up, and departed with suspicious haste. Standing alone in a stranger's house, I felt a chill despite the oppressive heat. Why would anyone trust their home to a 14-year-old they just met? The house wasn't particularly messy. Some laundry needed folding, dishes required washing, and carpets needed vacuuming, nothing that justified $15 an hour. More disturbing was the temperature. Despite the summer heat outside, the interior felt like a furnace. Every window appeared permanently sealed, and without permission to adjust the thermostat, I endured the stifling conditions. 6 hours later, Victor returned, handed me $90 cash, and drove me home. The pattern continued for nearly 3 weeks, with my parents eventually approving after seeing the legitimate payment and meeting Victor briefly. Then came the incident that should have been my warning. One Wednesday night, parched from the unusual heat, I woke around 2 a.m. for water. Passing my bedroom window, I glimpsed a figure standing in our yard, staring directly at my window. My scream brought my parents running, but the intruder vanished before they reached my room. The following day brought record temperatures of 95 degrees. When I asked Victor about using the air conditioning, his response chilled me despite the heat. "The system's broken," he said, then added with disturbing casualness, Just remove some clothes if you get too hot." I laughed nervously, assuming he was joking. His unwavering stare confirmed he wasn't. That day, the house temperature reached an unbearable 98 degrees. I worked shirtless, frequently stepping outside where, paradoxically, it felt cooler. The hours crawled by with excruciating slowness. The next morning, Victor announced he had taken the day off to help me clean. My stomach knotted with dread. Throughout the morning, he shadowed me from room to room, always maintaining uncomfortable proximity. Desperate for escape, I rushed upstairs to the bathroom, ensuring he wasn't following. That's when I noticed something that made my blood freeze: a tiny camera lens protruding almost imperceptibly from the corner ceiling vent. Scanning the room frantically, I spotted another hidden in the light fixture. Heart pounding, I searched the bathroom for additional cameras. Opening the cabinet beneath the sink, I discovered something far more horrifying: dozens of digital memory cards in labeled plastic cases. The top one bore my name. A knock at the door nearly stopped my heart. "Everything okay in there?" Victor called, his voice laced with unusual tension. "Not feeling well," I managed to reply. "Could you take me home?" "Sure," he agreed too readily. "I need to step out anyway." He entered the bathroom as I exited, and I wondered with mounting terror if he'd noticed the disturbed cabinet. The first 10 minutes of our drive passed in suffocating silence. When I finally registered our surroundings, panic surged through me. We were heading away from Pinecrest, toward the abandoned Mill Ridge Industrial Park. "Where are we going?" I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. Victor's eyes, when they met mine in the rearview mirror, had transformed from bland to predatory. "What were you doing in the bathroom cabinet?" he asked softly. I remained silent, fingers discreetly finding the door handle. "What did you see?" he demanded, voice rising to a roar. Providence intervened as we stopped at a traffic light near the Riverdale shopping center. I yanked the door handle, tumbled onto the pavement, and sprinted toward a crowd of shoppers, Victor's curses fading behind me. From the safety of a department store, I called my mother, who arrived with police in tow. The subsequent investigation of Victor's house, actually a rental property owned by an overseas investor, revealed the full horror. The memory cards contained footage of numerous children, some simply cleaning as I had done, others suffering far worse fates. Most disturbing of all, 3 children featured in the oldest recordings remain missing persons cases to this day. Victor, whose real name was Edward, Mercer, received multiple life sentences for crimes including production of child pornography, kidnapping, and murder. Sometimes I lie awake wondering where he was taking me that day, and what might have happened if that traffic light hadn't turned red at precisely the right moment. But mostly, I wonder about the others who weren't so lucky. What started as a simple furniture hunt turned into the most terrifying night of my life. Some bargains come with a price you never expect to pay. This nightmare unfolded about 7 months ago. My college friend Marcus and I had just moved into our cramped apartment near downtown, and we desperately needed furniture on our student budget. Facebook Marketplace seemed like the perfect solution for scoring decent secondhand pieces without breaking the bank. After browsing through endless listings of overpriced junk, I stumbled across something that made my heart skip: a pristine burgundy leather sectional posted just 2 hours earlier. The photo showed barely any wear, and the asking price was only $150, easily worth 10 times that amount. My gut twisted with that familiar feeling of, this is too good to be true, but my empty wallet silenced those doubts. The seller, who went by David K., responded to my message within minutes. He seemed eager, almost too eager to make the sale. We agreed on a price, and he insisted I come to his property on Millbrook Road that same evening. Marcus was pulling a double shift at the restaurant, so I have to make the trip alone. The address led me 25 minutes outside the city limits, down a winding gravel road that seemed to disappear into the wilderness. Ancient oak trees formed a tunnel overhead, their gnarled branches blocking out the last traces of daylight. The GPS signal flickered and died just as I spotted the house. It sat hunched in a clearing like something from a horror movie, a weathered colonial with peeling yellow paint and crooked shutters. No other homes were visible for miles. The silence was absolute, broken only by the settling groan of old wood and the whisper of wind through dead leaves. I sat in my Honda for a full minute, engine still running, every instinct screaming at me to reverse down that driveway and never look back. But $150 for a leather sectional? I turned off the ignition. The wooden porch steps creaked ominously under my weight. I knocked once, twice, then a third time with growing impatience. That's when I heard it. The deliberate creak, creak, creak of someone moving carefully across the floorboards inside, as if they were trying not to be heard. "You hear about the couch?" The voice came through the door, muffled and strangely breathless. "Yeah, I'm Alex," I called back, my voice sounding smaller than I'd intended. Good. Go around to the backyard. The furniture's out there." Something in his tone made my skin crawl, a barely contained excitement that didn't match the casual nature of a furniture sale. But I'd driven all this way, and Marcus would never let me hear the end of it if I came home empty-handed. I rounded the corner of the house and froze. In the center of the overgrown backyard stood 5 figures in dark hooded robes, arranged in a perfect circle. Their faces were hidden in shadow, but I could see their lips moving in synchronized whispers. In the middle of their circle was a metal grate built into the ground, secured with heavy chains and a massive padlock. No couch. No furniture of any kind. Just me, alone in the woods, staring at what looked like a scene from my worst nightmares. "Where's your roommate?" one of them asked, his voice carrying that same rushed quality I'd heard through the door. That's when pure terror shot through my veins like ice water. I had never not once mentioned Marcus in any of our messages. I bolted. My legs carried me faster than I'd ever run before, crashing through the underbrush toward my car. Behind me, I heard shouts and the thunder of footsteps giving chase. I slammed into my Honda, fumbling with the keys as dark shapes emerged from the tree line. The engine roared to life just as hands slapped against my rear window. I floored the accelerator, gravel spraying behind me as I tore down that nightmare driveway and didn't stop until I reached the safety of streetlights and civilization. The detail that still haunts me, that keeps me awake some nights even now. In all our correspondence, across dozens of messages, I had never once mentioned having a roommate. How did they know about Marcus? And what was that pit for? I never reported it to the police. Who would believe such a story? But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I was meant to be their next victim, or if someone else wasn't so lucky. Some bargains come with a price too steep to pay. The winter chill bipped through my jacket as I scrolled through another disappointing online store. At 14, my allowance couldn't stretch to cover the $60 storage containers I desperately needed for my birthday art supplies. My 24-year-old sister Morgan noticed my frustration. "Why don't we check Marketplace?" she suggested, her fingers already typing. "People are always selling storage stuff after spring cleaning." The listing appeared like an answer to a prayer. A massive storage container for just $15, a $75 savings. The seller, username CraftyGuy78, lived in Pinecrest, barely 20 minutes away. "This is perfect," I whispered, already imagining my organized art corner. Morgan sent a message, and within minutes, CraftyGuy78 who introduced himself as Victor Sponded. I suggested meeting at Value Mart, the convenience store just 3 blocks from our apartment complex. Actually, Emma, Victor wrote back, I could drop it off at your place. Save you the trouble. A strange heaviness settled in my stomach. We're in Oak Ridge Apartments, I lied, naming a complex across town. Probably easier to meet halfway. After some back and forth, Victor agreed to Value Mart but insisted it had to be at 10:30 p.m. that same night. Only time I'm free, he claimed. Morgan had her hospital shift that evening. Take the red wagon, she said, handing me 3 $5 bills. Text me when you're heading back. It's just a quick trip. At 10:15 p.m., I pulled my wagon along the deserted sidewalk, streetlights casting long shadows. Value Mart's parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived, save for a dented 2009 Nissan with foggy headlights. A man stepped out tall, broad-shouldered, with a baseball cap pulled low. Hey, I called, keeping my distance. I'm here for the storage container. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. How about that he left it at home? My place is just 5 minutes away. Hop in, we'll grab it, and I'll drive you back. My pulse quickened. I can't. My sister's expecting me, he offered, stepping closer. And I'll make it $10 instead of $15? When I shook my head, his expression hardened. You live at 187 Sycamore Court, right? The blue building with the broken security gate? The world tilted beneath my feet. I'd never told him our real address. I bolted, abandoning the wagon, my sneakers pounding against pavement. I didn't look back until I'd slammed our apartment door behind me, frantically engaging every lock. Trembling, I dragged my dresser against the door, then covered the windows with blankets. My phone buzzed with a text from Morgan. Everything okay? Before I could respond, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, slow, deliberate. No one in our building walked like that. Emma? The voice slithered through the door. I brought your storage container. It's in my car. Come help me with it. The doorknob rattled. I crawled into the bathroom, wedging myself between the sink and toilet, clutching Morgan's old field hockey stick. The first splintering crack of the doorframe sent me into silent tears. The second brought shouting from next door. Mr. Patel, our 70-year-old neighbor, appeared with his son Raj, wielding a cricket bat. Police are coming, Raj shouted as Victor crashed through my broken door. What happened next blurred into chaos. Raj swinging the bat, Victor lunging toward the bathroom, me scrambling past him and practically falling down the stairwell. I ran the 8 blocks to Mercy Hospital, bursting into the emergency room where Morgan worked. He found our apartment, I sobbed as nurses surrounded me. He knew where we lived. The police arrived minutes later. Victor Landry had a record 3 previous stalking charges and a pending case of attempted abduction. He'd been tracking online marketplace listings, targeting young people who lived alone or with minimal supervision. 2 weeks later, Morgan and I moved to a secured building across town. By summer, she had transferred to a medical program 3 states away, taking me with her. I never browsed online marketplaces again. Some discounts aren't worth the price.